Hey, fiscal conservatives of Hamilton County, how you doing? Greetings. My name is Micah Beckwith. I am running for the 5th District congressional representative seat, and I'm looking forward to working with you, and I appreciate everything that you've done to stand for fiscally conservative values. What you do on Facebook, your voice travels far, and I appreciate that as a conservative and someone who really recognizes that we are in a fight for our lives and our futures right now when it comes to our spending and our debt. So I just want to answer these questions and go through what you've asked, and hopefully you can hear my heart in this and know that I'm a fighter. I'm not going to compromise on these values. The first the question you asked is, do you favor term limits for members of Congress? If so, what period and why? Yes, I do. 12 years for the House, 12 years for the Senate. You know, when the founders, the framers of our nation envisioned the House of Representatives, they saw it really as a one-term servant leadership role. 2 years, some member of Congress would leave their House, a representative would leave their house, family, farms. They would go to Washington, and it would usually take a couple weeks to get there. They'd ride on horseback. They'd live in Washington for 2 years. They'd represent their communities. They knew their communities well because they just came from their communities. After about 2 years, though, they'd become a little bit disconnected from the communities. So they actually went home. They passed the torch to somebody else. They went into Washington and represented the community from there. And that person then would pick up and where they left off with their business and their family. So it really is important that we get term limits in place. I have signed the U.S. term limit pledge. If any legislation comes across the floor of the House while I'm there, I will vote yes on it. It could be 2 years, it could be one term, and I'll still vote yes on that pledge or on that bill. Second question: what is your position on legalizing and decriminalizing marijuana? I think from it's a states' rights, a local ordinance deal. I don't think the federal government should be weighing in on that. I would work to decriminalize it. Now, I don't want it in my community. I will work with as a constituent, I will fight with my state and local leaders. I'll make sure that they know that I don't want it in our community. I don't think there's been enough evidence to prove that it actually uplifts our community. Now, medical marijuana, that's fine. I think if that's between you and your doctor, you know, God gives us all kinds of resources on this earth. Marijuana is a natural substance. If there's a way that can help you medically, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But recreational use, you know, the number one in Colorado, it's legal. The number one substance found along teenage suicides is marijuana. And marijuana has only increased their annual revenue in Colorado by 1%. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense based on the case studies as we're looking around the nation. Okay, number 3, what proposals do you make in order to decrease, would you make in order to decrease the national debt? First and foremost, I think Rand Paul's penny plan is incredible. He's got a plan that would bring our debt down to zero in under 6 years. And it's taking 1 cent from every dollar we spend, and it would pay it towards the national debt. I think working on smart, common sense plans like that are crucial, and I would stand with Rand Paul on his fight to do that. Describe any overreaching policies of the federal government that you believe might be unconstitutional. Fourth question. I think the Johnson Amendment. President Johnson had a vendetta and a chip on his shoulders when it came to not-for-profits. When he was in the Senate, the church was a very vocal opponent of President Johnson or Senator Johnson. When he became president, he pushed through the Johnson Amendment, which limits the freedom of organizations, nonprofits, to be able to speak out on political matters. I think that is patently just goes against everything America stands for. Freedom of speech is crucial to our value system, and I would work to repeal that. I think Second Amendment restrictions, I would look for reciprocity. I think the fact that if you drive over to Illinois as an Indiana resident and you have a gun in your car and you get pulled over, you could potentially go to jail for that. I think that's ridiculous. I'd actually push constitutional carry because I think it's our right, it's our God-given right. And based on what the Second Amendment says, the government shall make no law that restricts the right of the people to keep and bear arms. So number 5, do you believe the government has a spending problem or a revenue problem? Well, I think that's pretty easy to see. It is a spending problem without a doubt. We are one of the most prosperous nations on the face of the earth. Our economy is going gangbusters with what President Trump has done with deregulating. We are seeing just a growth engine that is going through the roof. that was before the coronavirus, but I think we're going to pick it back up, and I think it'll get there again. However, if we don't get our spending under control, man, Republicans are worse than Democrats when it comes to that. I have been appalled over the last 10 years, 15 years. Under Republican leadership, we have doubled the debt. In 2012, when the Republicans took over the House and they had the power of the purse, there was $10 trillion in debt. And now we're 25, and Republicans had the House for 8 years. That's unacceptable. So we have a revenue problem. And I want to read to you just real quick some of the spending things, the wasteful spending that we do in America. If we can just get wasteful spending under control, that would go such a long ways. We've spent $76 million on stipends to soldiers in the Somali National Army. We're devoting $650,000 to develop a drama series to air in Afghanistan. We're spending $1 million on helping to support and develop the legislative process in Libya. And we're spending $18 million to support tourism in Egypt. It's ridiculous. We have no business spending that kind of money. Let those nations do what's best for those nations, and let's focus on the United States. Put America first. So again, I'm Micah Beckwith. Thank you for what you're doing, Fiscal Conservatives of Hamilton County. I look forward to working with you as your representative in the 5th District. I'm a fighter, and I'm not going to back down when it comes to being a strong fiscal conservative.